Recency bias has become a real problem in the NFL after Josh Dobbs pulled off one of the most improbable wins in NFL history against the Falcons and then doubled down and put a beatdown on the Saints. NFL media thought he was the Vikings' future, the reason Minnesota gets a wildcard spot, and even so delusional in saying that he was better than Kirk Cousins. And as a Vikings fan, I kinda lost my mind. And now after two ugly losses, the team doesn't even know if he should even start. I mean, he only threw 4 interceptions in one game against the Bears, only one shy of Kirk Cousins' 5 interceptions in 8 games. Now, I'm a fan of Josh Dobbs and his story in the NFL. I understand that he pulled off one of the most insane performances ever, not even knowing the plays or the guy he was throwing the ball to after just being traded to the team. And he goes out there and leads the Vikings down the field in a 2-minute drill to win the game, but the media took it to a whole nother level that was just filled with ludicrous and recency bias. They gave Josh Dobbs so much credit through only 2 games. Earlier in the season when Lamar Jackson had the Ravens at 2-0, they were singing his praises for MVP. When the Ravens dismantled the Lions 38-6, people were back on the bandwagon calling for a Lamar Jackson MVP. Now currently in week 14, nobody's saying a damn thing. If you made it this far and don't know what recency bias is, it's having a cognitive bias that favors recent events over historic ones. So when Lamar Jackson played great, everybody talked about him, obviously. But when he played below expectations a week later, he's not even relevant in the MVP conversation anymore. I understand a season is very short in the NFL compared to other major league sports, but one mediocre performance does not disnounce his entire season. And you may ask why I'm even talking about it. Does it really matter? And guess what? It surely does. But the answer to that question will have to wait, because we have to remember when people thought Jordan Love wasn't that guy or just overall awful at quarterback.
That game on Monday night, that was an atrocious performance. He was terrible against the Lions when the game was there to be won.
He can't play. He's just not accurate. I mean, his big play yesterday was a dump off to a running back.
Because he had a slew of awful games earlier in the season, but when this is your first season as a starting quarterback for the Packers with one of the youngest, if not the youngest receiving corps in the NFL, stuff always doesn't go your way. And let's throw in the fact that your starting running back and offensive line were injured for the majority of the season as well. But now, after 3 terrific weeks of football, including an epic primetime performance win over the Chiefs, everyone thinks Jordan Love.
Is he the franchise guy? That Green Bay can actually win some games.
You found your next quarterback, and
people just have no patience anymore. Give the guy a chance. Now, why am I yapping about all this recency bias? Because all these mainstream sports media outlets have influence, not just over the fans, but over the football world as well. When you spread a message and an idea for a long enough time in a short enough period, it creates traction and change, which leads to the latest bias.
But is it panic time for the Niners? 100% is panic time for the Niners. Did you watch the game?
Making it to the playoffs. You hear what I said? Making it to the playoffs.
Wait, now you're suggesting they might miss the playoffs?
They very well could if you look at.
I knew what he was to begin with. I noticed when we had this conversation about 3 weeks ago, Stephen A., I was trending because I said Brock Purdy wasn't elite.
Brock Purdy, right now it's a 2-man race for the MVP. It's Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott.
He's obviously the number 1 guy and the front runner for MVP, in my opinion.
Begin with. Then once they got Brock Purdy, which if I had an MVP vote right now, I'd probably have to put his name in it. I have to check that box.
Yes, the 49ers and Brock Purdy were once seen as a team struggling to win games, but are now dominating the number 1 seed Eagles at their own home stadium. The narrative has switched dramatically, so dramatically that people think Brock Purdy should win MVP. As I'm making this video, his current odds are at plus 300, which ranked number 1 in the NFL. Just 3 weeks ago, his odds were at plus 4,000. Don't get me wrong, Brock Purdy is a great quarterback, but giving him an MVP would be insane. The NFL media has convinced themselves and others that Brock Purdy is the MVP, and that's what they are trying to do to us. While we have Tyreek Hill, who is 519 yards away from reaching a record 2,000 receiving yards in a single season, and yet he's not even in the top 5 conversation for MVP. Now just watch until next week when we have more overreactions based around recency bias. What will it be? My guess is most likely something about the Eagles being overrated frauds when they lose to the Cowboys. Since you watched this video, don't believe it and follow your own proven opinion, or from a reliable source, because the Eagles are not frauds. Till next time, Sports Nerd Marty is out.